All right. I assume everyone can see my slides.
Yep.
All right. So, welcome everybody to May's webinar, talking about finding a living donor with the National Kidney Registry. This morning we have Wilson Dew and Timothy Jagman, both with the National Kidney Registry. Just some housekeeping for those of you who don't know. The Kidney Foundation, we service 32 counties in Ohio. As you can see in the blue, those are the counties that we do service. We are one of the only health and human services agency in Northeast Ohio that provides direct dollars to patients to assist through the devastation of kidney disease. We are an Ohio-based organization, and the funding that we raise stays here in Ohio. Today's webinar is 1 hour. You must attend the entire webinar to receive credit. Questions can be submitted through the question and answer feature on your screen, and then we will kind of go through the answers throughout the session. And then if you're interested in signing up for future webinars, your email will be added to the KFO mailing list because of signing up for this webinar. So just some disclosures. No one with the control of content has financial relationship with an ineligible company except for Amy Hazel, who is our nurse planner and is on the Speakers Bureau for Fresenius Renal Pharmaceuticals and Akebia. And this relationship has been mitigated. The entire session, again, you must be on for the full hour. We will send email certificates out the week of May 25th. We ask that you complete the evaluation by May 22nd. And the Kidney Foundation is an approved provider for continuing education for the Ohio Nurses Association. We are also an approved provider for the Ohio Counselor, Social Work, and Marriage and Family Therapist Board. And we've worked with the University Hospital to provide the sepsis hours for transplant coordinators. All of this presentation is approved for 1 hour. There is no commercial support for this webinar. Just kind of coming up, we've got some webinars coming. June 18th will be a nutrition and ESR comorbidities of hypertension, and July 9th will be a wound healing in dialysis. Both of those sessions are going to be approved for nursing and dietitian hours. August 13th is going to be on addiction and chronic illness. That will be approved for social workers and nursing hours. And then in September 16th and 17th will be our annual renal symposium. Registration will open Monday, and we will be providing up to, I think, 13 and a half credit hours. So hope to see you at some of these upcoming events. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to, once I get out of this, I'm going to turn it over to Wilson and Timothy and kind of let them take over.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Wilson, I'll let you kind of introduce
Heck
what we're
yeah.
doing here. Go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Wilson. Do I go by the Renal Warrior? We're, the National Kidney Registry. We're so excited to be on this call. Today we're going to talk about our role as a National Kidney Registry as it stands within living kidney donation. We're going to talk about living kidney donation, and we're going to talk about how to get these living kidney donations. And, in a world where, as a patient, and I'm a former patient, we feel a lot of times that there is a lot of uncertainty surrounding living donation that we don't even search. We're waiting for a deceased donor, but we're here to tell you that living donation is a very real thing and it's a very possible thing. And so we're going to really just show you a lot of the things that comes along with it, what the donor goes through, and how to actively search for this. So, please ask a bunch of questions during the presentations. You'll learn a lot about it. Now, to all the professionals that are out there, all the nurses, all the techs, social workers, everybody that's on the call, really, you are the front lines to the patients. I remember as sitting on that dialysis chair, the smiles that you bring, the talks that you bring. We trust you. And so, to all the professionals out there, learning about this means so much to the patient because just a little morsel of information that you can let out to these patients is going to inspire hope, is going to spark that hope so that these patients are able to continue to fight some more. These patients will be able to find that living donor. And, once we cross that finish line with a kidney donor, I think is going to be one of the most beautiful things. So hopefully that you're on here, pay attention and ask all the questions that you like. We have everybody on this call that understands the information, understands the process, the policies behind it. You have a couple of patients here with me and Samantha that have gone through dialysis, have sat on that chair, just like a lot of these patients. So let's get rocking and rolling. Timmy.
All right, so time to meet the team. So we have our leader right here, Samantha Hill. So Samantha, if you'd like to introduce yourself to start.
Sure. I don't know if I can live up to that slight intro there, but hi everyone. My name's Samantha Hill. As Wilson said, we're so excited to be here. I am the VP of Marketing for the National Kidney Registry. I'm also a living donor kidney transplant recipient, 2-time, and I was 1 time on dialysis. Thankfully, the second time I didn't need to go there again, but I am a former patient as well. Of course, it was back in '07, so I'm pretty sure things have changed just ever so slightly since then in the dialysis world. But I echo Wilson's statements. The people working in that clinic were very impactful on all of us. There's so much to learn. It's like a new language when you go into kidney failure, and you guys are kind of the frontline translators. And so for you to be here today, it's very exciting for the NKR. We are a living donor paired exchange organization at our core. We provide donor support, patient support, all sorts of other things, but our main mission is to get everyone transplanted with the best match possible. And you'll hear about more of some of those programs today. And then there's Timmy, my second in command. So I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. I was given some opportunity to take over the microsite program under Samantha's guidance, of course, but something I've really found is the purpose in helping all of our patients find a kidney transplant. I'm very involved in the coaching program, reviewing microsites, helping patients. So something that I've really taken kind of personally is making sure that we get all of our patients transplanted. So meeting Wilson, obviously working with Samantha, it's something that's really given me some guidance in my own life to get some stuff done. But yes, I am the director of marketing, microsite product manager. So if you have any questions on the microsite program or anything, feel free to reach out personally. But yeah, and I know Wilson already introduced himself a little bit, but go ahead, Wilson.
All right. Again, my name is Wilson Dew. I go by the Renal Warrior. Um, I was a kidney patient. I was on dialysis for 5.5 years before I received my living kidney donation. During the time when I was first diagnosed, it was a very traumatic experience. I was well over 300 pounds, was told, and I've been like that all of my life. I was told that I must lose 100 pounds before I would be able to qualify for a kidney. And at the time, telling me to lose 100 pounds was like telling me to lose 1,000 pounds. I couldn't even walk at the time I was diagnosed. But little by little, step by step, inch by inch, I clawed my way out of there. And so after, throughout that whole time, I've done a lot of advocacy work. I opened up a gym out here in California just to help these patients, and it's all complimentary to them. And so I'm very passionate about this whole thing. And right now, I work with the National Kidney Registry only because they have the information that I wish I knew when I was on dialysis. Post transplant, I learned about NKR. I competed in a lot of their events, and then my mind was blown. How come so many people are donating their kidneys? There's a whole nother world within this donor space. And I was just, how come I didn't know this as a patient? Every single patient sitting in that chair should know this. So right now, this is near and dear to me. This is my life's mission. I want to be able to scream all of this from the rooftops to the patients, to the staff members, to the nurses and the techs. I want to let all of you know that this is a very possible thing and there is a pathway to that. So this is why I'm here today. Ask all the questions that you have. I'm Wilson Dude, the Renal Warrior. I get
Perfect.
excited.
Thank you. Yeah. And Wilson's excitement will carry on through this whole presentation. Trust me. So now I'm going to pass it back to Samantha to kind of describe the history of the NKR, where it all started and where we've come from there.
All right. Well, Timmy and Wilson both do a much better job of this initial bit than I do. But the NKR was basically founded because of that first trip to the dialysis center for myself. So it was founded in 2007. In 2007, I was 10 years old, and like many 10-year-old kids in public school, I got a virus. It was February. That's just what happens, right? Well, the problem was that it wasn't going away. And it was weird. It wasn't going away. And it was a week. And viruses don't last a week. Stomach viruses last 24, 48 hours, 72 at the most. So for it to have lasted this long, it was very strange. Then, other symptoms kind of developed, ended up with a lazy eye, kind of weird. But anyway, so my parents were like, all right, she probably just needs fluids. Her sister went through something similar when she was in high school. Maybe it's just that weird virus strain. Okay, take me to the doctor, take me to the hospital, and they say, we think our devices are broken. And why is that? Because my numbers were off the chart. They were shocked that I was walking, let alone alive. And so they tried to start figuring out why my numbers were in such a horrible state at 10 years old. Turns out, had kidney failure. It was because of a genetic condition. We said, okay, time to go on dialysis. 30 days in the hospital later, they finally found a dialysis center that could take a ped, because as many of you know, a pediatric chair is not always the most available type, mainly because they're not usually the most utilized. But anyway, we found a dialysis center, and that's when things really kind of hit 80 miles an hour. And so it became, all right, well, what do we do now? Okay, get her a kidney transplant. Okay. Meanwhile, trying to ingest all of this material, understand what kidney transplantation was. And it was the Stone Age of transplantation. So there was no actual paired exchange network across the country. There were a few regional paired exchanges, but the first paired exchange in this country happened in 2001. This was 2007. So things had not really progressed to, an industrial strength system at the time. So we ended up finding my father as a donor. He was cleared. My mother was blood type incompatible and had all sorts of other health issues, so there was no way that was going to happen. But my father was going to donate. It's like, okay, great. We've got a donor. She's set. We've got a date. We'll be fine. No. 36 hours before the transplant, we find out that during a final cross match, I failed it, and I would reject my father's kidney because I had had 2 blood transfusions because I was so anemic. So back to, continuing dialysis and back to trying to find a living donor. Luckily, both of my parents were not good Irish Catholics, but they were good German Catholic families, which was pretty much the same thing. They all had, 4 and 5 brothers and sisters. Everybody had a bunch of kids, cousins, aunts, uncles, all stepped forward. I was very lucky. And because it was a genetic condition, it was kind of a question mark. Is there, anyone else? Well, no. It's a very rare condition. It's, quote, the one to get if you're going to get it as a kid. But there was no evidence of it in anyone else in the family. So luckily, pretty much everybody was cleared, but they all kept hitting that same barrier of, nope, they have that one little antibody. She's not going to be able to take that kidney, not going to be able to take that one. About 6 months later, 6 months of dialysis treatments, I was, much quicker than Wilson's 5.5 years. We ended up with my cousin's kidney, which was phenomenal. It was a great kidney, lasted nearly 20 years. Really great match at the time, which was, again, the Stone Age. So finding such a good match that it turned out to be was rare and a complete blessing. But anyway, so once I was done and I was healing, my parents sat down and said, well, this needs to change. This needs to get fixed. No other family should have to go through what we just went through. How is there not a national registry? Well, let's build one. So let's see if we can do this. We went to Cornell. They were our first center. They really got us rolling. And since then, we've grown and grown and grown. We facilitated over 12,000 kidney transplants through that paired exchange. We created the microsite program in 2019, actually with the surgeon who performed my first transplant over at Cornell. It was really his idea. And we've also developed a bunch of other programs, such as the voucher program, Donor Shield, Kidney for Life, and I'm sure that we will get into those later on. Anything I missed, Timmy?
No, I think you nailed it all. So yeah, that's the story I like to tell too. Samantha is the driving force behind the creation of it, but ever since then, we've really found a way to try to drive living donations, help all the patients, help donors, help whoever wants to contribute to such a meaningful cause to get to that endpoint. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it back off to Wilson to kind of describe what his purpose is in the whole microsite program.
Thanks, Timmy. Again, I go by the Renal Warrior. I mentioned earlier, I was on dialysis for 5.5 years. Having to lose that weight it taught me a lot about myself. I ended up losing over 130 pounds. And while I was on dialysis, it says there that I dedicate my life supporting others in the journey through the gym that I created here in California. It's called the Mission Headquarters, and it is a facility. Initially, was just my fellow chairmates sitting in the dialysis clinic. I said, "Look, I think I found the formula of just getting better." And it wasn't anything fantastic. It wasn't anything that was major. It wasn't groundbreaking. It was just I walked. I started literally at 300 pounds, started off with a 5 feet walk, and then stopped because I was so tired. It was so painful to take those walks with all the gout inflammation and whatnot. And every day I did that, and it masked all the emotional pains. So I did 5 feet every single day until it turned into 10 feet and 15 feet. So when we opened the gym, I said, look, it's okay. What we're going to do is we're going to walk first off. And when you get tired, we'll stop. Just go home. And next day, just keep on doing it until you get stronger. Same thing with, sitting down, standing up on the chair, just little by little. And I would walk through this whole program with them. And sure enough, 3 months, 6 months, a year, they started seeing massive improvements in their life with not doing anything super crazy. So we did that. And then I ended up expanding the gym and having members come in, taking regular classes, and they help pay for that. Now, currently, I'm the leads for the NKR Centerless Microsite Outreach. I go out across the country talking to patients. One of the things, and if we haven't said what a microsite was, is a microsite's a personalized website. It has your pictures that you want to post on there. It tells a bunch about your story, and that's great. But the most important thing about these microsites is that there is a button on there. And if this is your microsite, when you click on that button, what happens is donors can opt in to get screened and tested to donate just for you. Now, one of the things is with the centerless microsites is that you don't need to be approved. You don't need to be approved with a transplant center in order to get one of these microsites. And so Timmy will get into a whole lot later about these centerless microsites, and we'll talk more about it. But one of the things is that I've been advocating for kidneys and kidney disease for almost a decade now. I never really associated myself with any company, or I just wanted to go out there and just talk to people and give them hope, give them help. But it wasn't until I met the National Kidney Registry where they were doing all of that. They were giving hope. They were helping folks. I single-handedly witnessed the CEO call me and say, "Hey, Wilson, there's this kidney patient out in North Carolina. Something happened. Let's go ahead and make sure that they get their kidney." And boom, within 3 months, we were able to help them and their families be able to get together and get that kidney where they thought they weren't able to before. So I love the culture there at the National Kidney Registry. There is no organization that does more living kidney donations than the National Kidney Registry. And they lead not only with purpose, but they lead with heart. And this is exactly what our patient population needs.
Perfect. You couldn't say it better, Wilson. All right, so let's get into some statistics just to kind of show you the power of the National Kidney Registry. So currently we have 102 centers nationwide. Not every transplant center is an NKR center, but we do have 102 across the nation, including Hawaii. We cover geographically kind of every area that we possibly can to help our patients and donors. We have 64 microsite centers across the nation. 64 centers that are providing microsites to their patients. So not every center is a microsite center, but we can get to how you guys can help us a little bit in a little bit. Our transplant volume. So NCARE facilitated transplants. We have done over 12,400 facilitated transplants. We grow every year, year by year. And just last year in 2025, we had over 1,800 facilitated transplants. So since 2007, we've done 12,000, but you can see that our growth has grown and grown and grown because just last year we were able to do 1,800 transplants facilitated by the NKR.
And Timmy,
And you
what's
may
the
ask,
main mechanism for how we get our transplants?
yes. So I was just gonna say, great question. So we use the voucher program. We use remote donation. We use whatever we can to help our patients and our donors. Through the NKR, we've basically eliminated the incompatibility issue. So if someone has a donor that's willing to donate on their behalf, but they're incompatible, whether it be blood type, whether it be that it whatever works, it just doesn't work for their patient to have their kidney, we have been able to provide them with a voucher. So the donor goes through the process, donates, provides their intended recipient with a voucher. That recipient is then able to redeem that voucher to any NCAR center and get a kidney through our matching process. We find the median wait time to be about 2 months. Now we do have some variables in there, so depending on sensitivity, depending on blood type, but we do find that most of our voucher holders do get transplanted within about 2 months of activation from when they redeem their voucher. We supply kidneys across the country. We will ship kidneys from California to Massachusetts or vice versa. We can go up from Oregon down to Florida. We have a dedicated operations team that watches the kidney moves 24 hours a day. So someone that comes in at 6 a.m., we have someone that's here in the office until 8 p.m. But after that, we still have what we can call non-office hours, but we do have operations guys watching the kidneys every step of the way. So if we're on a red eye and that kidney gets unloaded at 2 a.m., someone's following up on it. Someone's making sure that that kidney was unloaded correctly, taken from by the courier, gotten to the center, and then hopefully to the recipient. So across the board, we always have someone watching every single move we do. And that's kind of the way that all works as far as remote donation goes. Now, what is our microsite impact? So Wilson kind of explained what a microsite is. We're going to get into it a little bit more in depth in a little bit. But overall, all time, since the program was developed in 2019, we've seen 1,380 microsite uh, patients get a living donor transplant. We've seen some get deceased donor transplants, of course. They are on the wait list. But most importantly, over almost 1,400 living donor transplants in the past almost 7 years.
Timothy, if I
And
can interject real
yeah,
quick, one of the questions that came up is NKR, are there centers in Northeast Ohio that are
uh,
NKR sites?
so we do have centers in Ohio. I know we have Cleveland Clinic on the line. I know we have UH Cleveland. I would have to double check to see exactly where everyone's located. Samantha might be looking it up now. I can
I
see.
am. So I'm not 100% sure. This is why he's my
And
right hand.
and
He
I
knows.
think Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital, the majority of our patients in our service area do utilize those. I know some will utilize Ohio State, University of Toledo, but Cleveland Clinic and UH are the two kind of main hospitals.
Okay, so Toledo does not work with us currently. Cleveland Clinic does. Christ Hospital does. UC
Which is
Medical
in
Center.
Cincinnati.
Yep. UH
Yep.
Cleveland does. Cincinnati Children's does as well.
Okay.
So like you said, Toledo, like I said, Toledo does not at the moment. Ohio State does not. OU does not as well at the moment. And then Nationwide Children's does not either. So that's kind of
Okay.
the centers in Ohio. That's where everybody stands.
Great. And then is NKR a nonprofit organization?
No. So we were at one point in time. However, for a very weird reason, we ended up going to a for-profit organization, and it actually had to do with streamlining things and making more donations possible, not monetarily, but systematically. We created a system for centers to bill each other for donor workups, patient reimbursement, et cetera, for different costs because of how insurances and Medicare works, and how many centers we work with, and where the donors can sometimes be from, and versus the patient that their kidney is going to. We just streamlined the billing process across that network and through those centers, and because of that, that system, which we don't make any money off of it, we just wanted to streamline things. Because of that, we had to turn into a for-profit.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And just to wrap it all up, just to show you how powerful a microsite can be, we had almost 19,000 registrations just for microsite patients in 1 year, in 2025. So if you have patients that are looking to start their search for a living donor, just between all of our active microsites, we had almost 19,000 registrations, and we're always looking to increase that number as well. And then Samantha, I'll pass this back off to you to describe the difference between living donation and deceased donation.
Thank you. Yeah, so living donation versus deceased donation. Many patients are kind of sitting there going, well, I need a deceased donor, without really understanding that living donation is an option. And of course, deceased donation is out there. The majority of transplants each year for kidneys is deceased. However, the number has been growing on living donation. So what's the difference? A deceased donor obviously is deceased, but the kidney is also not necessarily as good of a potential kidney for those patients because of how long that kidney can last. So the wait time is significantly higher, 2 to 10 years. Some people wait 15 until they get that call, depending on where they are and what kind of kidney they need. And the length of time that kidney can last from a deceased donor. Now, of course, there are always exceptions that prove the rule, right? But it's generally about an average of 10 to 12 years, 8 to 15 years for that kidney life, the kidney half-life, meaning that half of the people who have a deceased donor end up losing their kidney by year 15. Again, I've met people who have had a deceased donor for over 30 years. This is not the absolute truth. There are always exceptions, but generally speaking, deceased donor lasts 8 to 15 years. Now, a living donor can last twice that long, if not longer. The wait time is also significantly less. Once they find a donor, go through our system, patient typically waits about 120 days. There are different cases in which they might have to wait longer, as Timmy alluded to. For example, if they are very, very, very highly sensitized with a CPRA over 99.7, they may have to wait longer for that 1 in a million match, but it happens all the time here at the NKR because of how big our network is and how many different, regional genetic situations we can access because of that giant network of 102 transplant centers. So we ended the year with 1,800 transplants facilitated and about 20 or so patients still waiting over a year. That was due to their high sensitization. But again, that's a very small number by comparison, right? So generally, the kidney will also last longer. And that's because the kidney is in a healthier situation. There's no shock to that kidney from, the person's death, whatever that may have, been caused by, whether it was drugs or a motorcycle or what have you. That's taken out of the picture. So it's already a safer environment for the kidney to be extracted from, to begin with. So when it gets implanted, it's not as shocked. It's also we're also able to get a better match because we can plan for things, right? So the patient goes into our system, has the donor donates, patient receives the voucher, and they find the best match possible. We look at height, we look at weight, we look at HLA, we look at eplets, which, I mean, it's the best possible matching system at the moment. There are so many different factors that go into finding the best match possible that kidney is going to be a really good kidney. And we all know the better the match, the better the outcome, right? So typically the last 20 to 40 years versus, average of 12. All right.
Perfect. So we've tossed around this word microsite a lot. And for those of you who don't know, let's get into exactly what that is. So our microsites help any patient start their search for a living donor. Here at the NKR, we believe that it's never too early to start your search for a living donor. You should start it as soon as you possibly know that you may be entering kidney failure. So what do we provide for a microsite? So Wilson kind of said it before, but it is a customizable website. You can add up to 5 photos of yourself. You can share your story. You can share hobbies, interests, what you did before you encountered kidney failure, what your whole process has been, how you were diagnosed. And then, of course, what you want to do after you get your transplant. It's a way for donors or potential donors to find a connection, make a personal connection to our patients, and hopefully work through the process and then go ahead and donate. Now we do have, you can see 2 of the buttons, but we do have 3 buttons on here, these blue buttons on every microsite, and it basically leads them to the NKR registration portal for that patient. So anyone that views that microsite and says, you know what, I want to donate on behalf of this person, whether it be direct, whether it be voucher, we always encourage voucher because, again, compatibility, there's not an issue there, but it also helps them find the best match. But that will take them through the process and that will get them to a center. What we personally provide from the NKR, not only is the software and the website, all this obviously no cost to any patient, no cost to any center, but we send out 250 business cards immediately on activation of their starter site. And this business card has their QR code and their URL. So if they're just walking around town, if they're at their church, if they're at a local YMCA, if they're just at a diner and they just want to leave a business card, they have the ability to pass these out to anyone they want to and hopefully find a potential donor just by scanning that QR code. It takes them to their microsite, potentially leading to them to the registration. We've seen some incredible ideas come from all these microsites because just even having the URL, you can develop your own QR code. So we've seen bumper stickers, we've seen t-shirts, we've seen billboards, we've kind of seen it all, yard signs, and just someone driving by may just look at it and say, oh, let me take a picture of that. I didn't even know living donation was a possibility. Or I didn't know that this person in my community was actually suffering with something like this. So I'm willing to donate. So we found really great success in what we almost call like the power of 10 by 10 by 10. Sharing the story, finding champions or friends or family to share the story and continue along. But we also provide these posters here at the immediate start of their activation. So we send out not only 250 business cards, but we also send out 2 or 10 starter site posters. And this again, it's got the QR code on it, it's got their URL on it, but it's a little bit bigger. It's 8.5 by 11, glossy paper, beautiful. And then even going further from there, we have the ability for customizable posters to be created, and they have their picture on it, similar to what you see here, their profile picture. So it gives them a little bit more access. And if someone's in the community and it's someone that's in a school line drop off and they're like, oh, I've seen her before, I've seen him before, and they say, I didn't know that they were going through this, it develops a sense of community, it develops a personal connection. One of our other biggest opportunities here for any microsite patient is we give them access to a coach, a microsite coach or donor search expert. We have a group of them right here, which you can see. We have 6 of them total, some of them being recipients. So your Redley and Brian and Abby are all recipients. They went through uh, dialysis, or your Redley and Brian did go through dialysis. Abby didn't end up going through dialysis, but they all were living donor recipients. They all can kind of help coach through that process. But then on even more to go into how we can kind of get all of our resources into a bundle is we have Tara, who's a double donor. She donated a kidney, she donated a piece of her liver, all basically just on finding out that living donation was possible. She is a transplant coordinator or former coordinator at Colorado. And then we have our 2 champions who are Debbie and Terry. Terry was a champion for her son, who was able to find a living donor transplant. Debbie is a champion for her husband, who's able to find a living donor transplant, but was also a part of her grandson's heart transplant. So everyone involved in our coaching program has a really deep connection to organ donation, whether it be their recipients, whether it be that they were helping someone be find a living donor, or whether it be that Tara just donated on her own and was part of the coordinator program. So everyone's there. Samantha and I, Wilson, we also work hand in hand with this team. So we're all involved, but this is the coaching team that you would get. And now these coaches, month by month, hold a monthly webinar, which they host a webinar. Usually they're themed. We try to theme them out every month. So, for example, we just had one on Tuesday that was about pre-transplant and post-transplant life. So we talked about dialysis. We had a dialysis expert on the line, I would say. She answered a ton of questions medically that we personally don't answer. But then we also have ones on the voucher program. We've had ones on marketing your microsite. So each month we have a monthly webinar and they get about 130 attendees a month. And then on top of that, the coaches are always there for just daily support. So they will reach out to them and just on like a bi-weekly basis, just say, hey, do you need any help? Do you have any questions? Anything I can explain to you? Provide education on all the NKR programs. So our coaching staff is thoroughly informed on everything that we do, but they're also there as a support system for any of your patients that come through.
Yeah, Timmy, I wanted to add to that, with the business cards and then having that centralized place where we can actually go out to donors. So say for example, a lot of times patients as we first get diagnosed, it's, well, I want to help. How do I help? Or where can I go to? And I remember taking out my phone, go to this website right here, or trying to text it. Rather, it's more convenient to have something right then and there and just to hand it out. And for the community, church community, local community, the gyms, posting up those posters, I think are very impactful just because a lot of people know, but they don't know. Um, but the coaches, I think, is an amazing thing, and the webinars are so incredible because as patients, a lot of times we go to our transplant center and they say, "Well, here's how you can get your donors registered," or here's a link. And what happens is you go to the potential donors, you go, here you go, contact the transplant center. And I will tell you, 100% of the times that I've had donors contact the transplant center, it's like, okay, what is your blood type? Fill this information out. Okay, bam, bam, bam. And it's very clinical and methodical where they're going through that process. With the coaches, you actually get to speak to either other patients that have gone through it. You get to speak to donors. If your donors, potential donors, has questions, I'm sure you could reach out to the coach and they will connect them with another donor to get their experience. And this is the information that you'll get firsthand as opposed to going through the transplant center. And a lot of times they'll go through their process, which is fantastic. That's absolutely needed. But the human aspect of it, to be able to talk to another donor or to talk to another recipient or to talk to another patient to hear their experiences, and not just theirs, but multiple patients and multiple donors, I think is invaluable for the patients right now that are looking for a kidney. So the coaching staff is absolutely amazing. They lead with the heart. That's exactly why they're there. And every single person is approachable. And those webinars, we get to hear from the patients that had success stories, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. They'll explain all of that stuff in their experience, and so that right, just that alone, right there, as a patient sitting in that dialysis chair, that was one of the things that I wish I had. Other patients that have gone through it, just so I could do what they did.
Perfect. Eloquently said. Wilson speaks it perfectly. And yeah, I couldn't be happier with the coaching team. They are incredible individuals. Every day they wake up working just to help their patients find a living donor transplant. So that's their only goal in life. They've been through it. They've been there. They've seen it. They just that's their sole mission, is to try to find a living donor transplant for their patient. And I see a
I
couple questions that came through. Go ahead, Wilson.
No, I was just gonna say, I had an experience with Terry where one of the patients, their family member, trying to care for them, and Terry was fantastic. Going, Terry, if you see up there, she's a donor search champion. So she helped, I believe it was her son, right,
Yeah.
to find a kidney and to have the family support. It's not just you as a patient; it's your family that's going through it as well. They will help you out, and we have these champions to share their experience so that family member can best help. So again, all aspects of it.
Perfect. And I see two questions that directly correlate to these coaches. One would be, if I'm not tech savvy, is there support at NCAR that can help me? Yes, that would be this team right here that you're looking at. These coaches do not mind creating the site for you. They will take whatever pictures you have, you send them to them, they put them online, they'll take your story, they will write your story for you if you even need help. They know what helps, they know what works. They know what can kind of form a personal connection. They will then take that, run it by you, make sure that it's okay, make sure it's okay by the patient, get it on the site. So they will do all of that for you. So if you have any patients that aren't tech savvy, we know there are those out there. The coaches are there to help. So always encourage a coach. And then how long does it take to make a site? It's a pretty quick and easy process. So it really depends on how much back and forth there are with the coaches, or how much the patient wants to uh, put time into writing their story or help with the story. But really, there's two fields. There's one, why, and I'll go back to this slide before. But there's one field up here, who am I? And it just kind of describes who you are. And then there's one down here, why I need a kidney. Both are 2,500 character maximums. But if a patient is willing to share their story, again, the coach can help them. So really all they need to do is spend maybe 30 minutes on the phone with a coach, reviewing their story, whatever it is. But the coach can help them get everything set up. So it can be quick, it can be a longer process. It really depends on how much effort the patient is willing to put in. Again, we don't want the patients to be exerting themselves too hard. We know they're going through a lot. But we try to streamline the process as much as possible by utilizing these six coaches you see right here.
And from my experience, the patients that I work with, Timmy, it's they fill out the form. A coach reaches out to them within 24 hours, and a lot of times within 1 or 2 days, that microsite is up and running, ready to rock and roll.
Yep,
Absolutely.
exactly. Exactly. Perfect. And then I did see another question in here about, if a patient receives a kidney through the NKR and years later they lose the kidney, are they eligible to qualify for a second voucher? It's a great question. We have formatted and developed this program now that if someone does receive a transplant, whether it be deceased, whether it be a living donor, they have the ability to keep their microsite active. We call it a post-transplant microsite, and the purpose is to get a second voucher. We would love if every kidney donation lasted 80 years, 100 years, whatever it is, and you don't have to worry about it. But we know the facts are you may need a kidney in the future. So by keeping your microsite active, you can still share it. You can still find a secondary voucher. You can have yourself ready for the future. So say 20, 30, however many years down the road, if you were to need a kidney, you have a voucher ready and you can go and redeem it. And then we get you back into our matching system.
Which is
And
how I avoided dialysis the second time.
and
So, Just to put a little button on that, I had my first transplant. It was not a voucher program. We didn't have a voucher program. We didn't have an NKR. That being said, years later, both my father and my aunt felt moved to donate back in 2015 and 2016, respectively. Just in case I needed one in the future, they were both at a point in their lives where they were healthy enough and just, felt the call. So when I did need my second transplant in 2022, I was able to activate my aunt's voucher and avoid dialysis time because I already had that in there. So I was just waiting for the best match possible. When it came up, I was able to get the transplant.
Yeah, and the reality is that as you were stating earlier, Sam, is that you know kidneys aren't forever, and to me you just said that as well. And so having that voucher, that second voucher, I think is um, if it's possible, I think it's great. And a lot of times when we're just recently diagnosed, we have multiple family members or friends that would like to donate. And you know, not only do they get to donate and we get another voucher, but if you think about it, they're saving other people's lives by donating right away. So it's not that if you have a voucher you never use it, it goes to waste. Somebody else's life has actually been saved because you have that voucher. So it's always a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And then there's
Uh,
one more question. What are the fees for the centers when a recipient is transplanted? So the fees are based on the transplant itself. It's really not the appropriate time to talk exact dollar figures, but um, we do do all of the logistic work, all of the testing and whatnot, and so we do charge for that system. However, just very important to note, those fees are for the centers. Those fees are not for the patients. The patients do not pay a dime for any of this. They do not pay for the microsite. They do not pay for business cards. If they want additional business cards, we send them to them for free. They do not pay for the coach. They do not pay for a poster. They pay nothing. If they choose to boost their website on Facebook, they can pay for that. That's their choice. That's their decision. But nothing related to the microsite program from our end is charged to the patient.
Uh,
Perfect.
I'll take this
Thank
next
you.
question. Or do you want to move on, Timmy? You want me to take
No,
this?
go ahead, Wilson.
Okay, so question on there. Occasionally, we have patients who are listed who can be delisted when the hospital checks with us. The patient's adherence record, does NKR check adherence for our patients? No. So what happens is this, is that if you have a voucher donor, if you have a donor that wants to come in, they can donate. You can get the voucher as a patient, whether you're in adherence or not. You hold on to that voucher. And so when there is a transplant center that says, okay, you are ready to receive a kidney, you can go ahead and redeem that voucher. Adherence is typically for getting a deceased donor. But when you have a living donor, as long as you're capable of receiving one, you're healthy enough to receive a kidney, you can redeem that voucher, and there's no red tape on that.
Yeah,
Perfect.
so just to kind of add a little bit, and we'll talk about this much more in depth later. We do not check adherence. In fact, we are happy to help those patients who are not currently listed or eligible to be listed to set up a microsite because the average time from activation of a microsite to getting that transplant is about 1 to 2 years. Um, some patients have found transplants in 3 months. Some patients have actually taken 32 months. It really depends on how out there they were and how much pushing they've done for their site. What you get in is what you get back, right? So just like I'm sure Wilson knows, just like the gym, what you put in, you get back. So anyway, because that can take a decent amount of time, the average time it takes for a donor to get through the workup and actually donate is about 6 months. Um, because of that, we actually very much encourage patients who are working towards being listed to set up a microsite through our new program.
Right.
Perfect. So to run through this really quick, we also have a patient resource website. So if you go to findakidney.com, you will see it's all patient based. So in the top right corner, there is a way for them to register through our patient intake system that will get sent to a center. But more importantly, even we have microsite tab, we have our coaches tab, we have blogs and news, we have resources, in this resources tab, we provide patients with outreach templates. How can they reach out to their family? How can they reach out around the holidays? How can they reach out to their local news station? We found that there's been a great success with local news stations, whether it be print, whether it be television, radio, whoever it may be. They'll pick up these stories because they're personal interest stories and they want to help their community. And then even more, we have blogs and news. So we have our transplant success stories on here. We have blog posts on maybe some information that a patient can supply to a potential donor, whoever it may be, or just even potential information for a patient themselves. So we always encourage, look at this site too. It's great. We keep it going, going, going. Every week we're adding something to it. So feel free to pass this along to your patients. Even if they're not a microsite patient, there's a great deal of information on here.
Okay.
So how can we help you? All right. So this is important. So we've taken our software, our microsite software, and we've evolved it. We've now figured that the problem we're trying to solve is that there's over 500,000 dialysis patients nationwide that may not have an effective way to search for a living donor. So what can we do? We can provide these patients with access to our microsites. We can provide them with a microsite. We can help them jumpstart their search for a living donor. So current success, we've just opened this up. It was about March 1st, 2026, but we've already had 50 microsites set up with patients that may not be at a center, may not be at a microsite center, may not be at an NKR center, or whatever it may be. And that's already generated nearly 150 registrations and 12 center referrals. So that means 12 potential donors have been sent to centers to be worked up to see if they can be a voucher donor or a donor for a microsite patient in this program. And that's just what, in 2.5 months, not even. So we're still making sure all of our software works and everything. Wilson's been on the front lines, getting it out there on Facebook, getting it out there in person. So Wilson, I'll let you kind of go ahead and take it away.
I want to get a lot of time for the Q&A. I see there may be a lot of questions, but basically is that traditionally, and this is one of the most fantastic things that are available right now, is that traditionally, in order to be able to even search for a kidney, like myself, I had to lose over 100 pounds in order to get approved by a transplant center. I couldn't search for a kidney. People were coming up to me, how can I help? I want to donate. You'll have to wait till I lose the weight. And again, traditionally, you need to be approved to receive a kidney by a transplant center before you can actively start searching for that donor or getting them tested, getting them up to the point where they will do donation. Now, the centerless microsite takes that all away. Had I had this back then and I need to lose 100 pounds, or I wasn't in adherence, or sometimes it takes a transplant center six months to a year before they could do a workup to tell me if I'm approved or not. Now with the centerless microsite, I could go ahead and get that centerless microsite right away, post that up. Any donors, any of my family members, or anybody who wants to help and donate and get screened and tested right away would be able to go through that microsite, go through the process all the way leading up to donation. They would just give me a voucher. So at the moment when I am approved to donate, or I've lost the weight, I could go, here's my voucher. I want to redeem it. Now, if I had that back then, maybe I would have lost the weight a whole lot quicker. And there is a lot of patients out there that are discouraged by this. But if they had that voucher in hand, that's going to be able to give them a lot more hope to be able to fight. So this is what the centerless microsite does, and I think it's extremely important, and it's a fantastic tool for everybody out there. And hopefully that answers. I see a couple of questions regarding do you have to redeem it? Does a patient have to redeem a voucher at an NKR center? Yes, because it's an NKR voucher. But I tell you what, if the only thing standing in your way, you have a voucher in hand, the only thing standing in your way to getting a new kidney is to get over to an NKR center. There's probably an NKR center that's close by or within the same state at least. You would go over there just to get that kidney. So this is why that centerless microsite is so important. It eliminates all the barriers that it takes to start searching for a donor right away.
And to even further expand on Heidi's question, Heidi, I believe you are at, I'm not sure if it's Cleveland Clinic or UH Cleveland, one or the other. I know you're one of our coordinators, but we also provide the backup vouchers. So we do provide the support for family vouchers, whether it be children, family members, best friends, whatever you deem your family is. So we do supply, obviously, as you know, the backup vouchers for those family members as well as your intended recipient. And then Samantha, did you have something there?
Yeah, just to put a pin on Wilson's point, if the thing that's standing in your way is getting to a transplant center that works with the NKR, I will tell you, and I know he will too, as a patient, there is not far enough I could drive when I was in kidney failure to stop me from getting a transplant if I knew one was waiting for me, right, Wilson? There's a kidney out there waiting for you, you'll drive cross country.
I'm in California. I was going to go over to Nebraska to get a deceased donor. So
Yeah.
And just so everyone knows, any patient that comes through this program is automatically assigned a coach.
Yes.
And that coach will help you find an NCAR center, help you work through that process, get you there. So they also have the support not only from whether it's the dialysis center helping them or ourselves, the NKR and our coaching platform to help you, but that's kind of get you there. Now I want to go through this quick so that Wilson can speak to the next steps and we can get to some Q&A if we have any. But we hear a lot from whether it be patients or donors on living donation concerns, and we understand them. Everyone may have their concerns, and the top three we hear are: it is too risky to undergo surgery. What we found is statistics show kidney donation is safe. Typically takes about 6 to 12 weeks to recover. Most patients or most donors have an extended life or a fine life afterwards. There's no problems. There's no qualms with it. We always tell donors that it is the best physical you can get in your entire life. So even going through that process, you may discover something that the donors need to fix, or to work on. So we make sure, and the NKR holds all of its centers to a super, super strict standards on making sure a donor is eligible for transplant. We would never put a donor through that isn't, or even on the borderline. So going through the NKR, it's safe. The number two would be my life will be shortened or restricted. Kind of goes back to number one. No data really to support this idea. Data shows donors can go on to live completely healthy lives, sometimes being happier and feeling more fulfilled. If you want to share something with your potential donor candidates, have them check out the Donor Games website. We have some of the strongest athletes who are donors. They've donated a kidney and they would whoop any regular general person. So check it out, share that with them. And then the third one being I can't afford to not work. And Donor Shield through the NKR provides lost wage reimbursement, donor expense reimbursement. We provide any donor that comes through a microsite with living kidney prioritization. So if far down the line they need a kidney themselves, we would then put them into our system, prioritize them, make sure that they get a kidney. So send them to our donorshield.com website. There is a ton of protections that we provide in forms of reimbursement. So if someone's saying, I have to work, I can't lose money here or there, we got you covered. Wilson, you had something.
yeah, I just real quick to piggyback off that. Some of the objections I get from donors is I have children, so if I donate, what if they need one? And what happens is that they donate through a voucher program, they can name their family members to receive kidneys if they ever need one. It's a one for one. If they donated a kidney, if their child needs a kidney down the road, they will get their kidney, and that will be that. One other thing is regarding the donor shield. Okay, I think you already covered it. The one thing about donor shield, living kidney prioritization. If the donor ever needs a kidney, they get prioritized as from a living donor versus at the transplant centers where they would get a deceased donor. So that would be
Correct. Perfect.
Jennifer.
And then next steps. Wilson, what do you got here for us before we wrap this up?
The next step is just go out there, education, education, education. Find out as much as you can about that. Click on that QR code. You'll get to see a Centerless microsite registration. Number two, get patients signed up for the Centerless microsites. Everybody can get one. Even if you're a stage 4 and you're like, I know I'm imminent, I don't want to go through dialysis. Start that Centerless microsite so you can get that voucher right away. And when in doubt, ask Wilson or the NKR. Feel free. I answer every single patient, social worker, anybody. You can find me online, Reno Ward 2016 on Instagram. I'm sure Jennifer can get you my contact information, my email, my phone number, my cell phone. I answer everybody and get more patients living donor transplant. Let's rock and roll together. Let's all work together and let's get more people transplanted.
And Wilson, you'll see him out there in June.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I
Yes.
want to mention that. So in June,
I think it's the week
I
of the
had the
22nd, right?
yeah, so the week of June 22nd, we have, and let me pull up the flyer. We will be having a lobby day event, and we are going to be at multiple sites. So we're going to be in Fresenius, in Warren and Youngstown Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday we'll be at the CDC East. Thursday we'll be here at the Kidney Foundation office. And Friday we will be at the White Pond Davita in Akron to give people an opportunity to meet with Wilson. And Wilson, can you just share a little bit about what happens at this event?
Absolutely. During lobby day tours, they'll get to ask their own personal questions. Patients will be able to ask their own personal questions. The staff will be able to ask me how to better approach patients, and that happens quite often. But we really go into detail on their specific situation once we talk one on one, and then really after that, a lot of patients walk away with the centerless microsite, and we get them set up right then and there. I'll have an iPad with me. And then really just kind of guide them through the whole process. And if I'm out there for a few days, maybe by the time I leave, they would have already gotten their centerless microsites up. So really just and not only just for the centerless microsites, I get a lot of patients that just want to talk about their current journey, how I lost the weight, what am I doing, what are my opinions about adherence, how do they adhere. And I've been through a whole lot while on dialysis, and you can find the whole story online. And I'm just there to just lend an ear and offer my advice, my best advice. And really the thing is with this whole process, if I don't know the information, I certainly know where to get it. I will go hunt it down. So I'm there for support.
And we'll also have representatives from Cleveland Clinic and University Hospital transplant centers. So if you have questions about that, patients can go to any of these. They don't have to necessarily be from that unit. We try to make these geographically kind of easy for people to get to, but it'll be a possibility to meet Wilson and NKR in person.
Yep.
And there's still opportunity, even if you can't attend one of these, to be able to reach out to NKR to set up microsites, working with coaches and all of that. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. We will be sending this flyer out after the presentation along with our evaluation. I will make sure that some of the websites that were talked about today, I will send you a list of those so you have access to it. And I just hope that you can, if for those of you who are patients, we look forward to hopefully seeing you at some of these centers in June. For our professionals, we hope that you encourage your patients to participate. This is going to be a really, really great event to, try to get patients off of dialysis and back to living, somewhat of a normal life. So thank you, everybody. Just a couple reminders about the webinars in the next few months. Also, the Kidney Foundation has their annual golf outing June 1st. So if you are interested in golfing, you can go to our website, which is www.kfohio.org. Sign up for that. And hopefully we'll see you at the NKR Kidney Foundation lobby days. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. And feel free to pass along my contact information when you send out any materials too. So if anyone has any questions, they're thinking about something, reach out to me. I'll be able to help too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.